There we go.
All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's Tipple's Wine of the Week with Elizabeth and Jeff Beaudre from Tipple's Producing Wines, Gainesville, Florida. Thanks for joining us. Let's dig into a great wine. All right.
Okay.
This week, we're drinking the Matthews Claret
Okay.
from Columbia Valley in Washington State. Claret is not the name. It is a name. It is a description. Yeah. There's a reason you think that.
Okay.
We're going to cover it. Okay.
All right. Cool.
Mhm.
Like, I'm going to say this, and you'll be like, "No, you're wrong.
No,
Stop
no.
talking."
It is an English name.
Okay. All right. Okay.
And we'll talk about why it all came together.
Okay.
All right. So that will be fun. So, all right. So if you have not already done so, go ahead and pour yourself a glass. We'll pull up the first slide while I pour our glasses.
Ours has been open for a half an hour.
Ours has been open for about 25 minutes.
Okay.
Not the same as half an hour at all.
I was like half an hour, 25 minutes. Seems the same.
Wine cares.
Okay.
It doesn't.
Well, maybe, and 5 minutes could make a difference.
It could be.
All right.
All right. So the Matthews Claret,
Mhm.
Columbia Valley, Washington State. Wine rating, wine enthusiast, 93 points for this vintage, which is the 2022. Couldn't find the 2020 vintage. I couldn't find a picture that says 2019 on our image, but that's not what we're drinking. We're drinking 2020.
Okay.
All right, food pairings. Porcini ravioli with meat sauce. Lamb chops sizzled with garlic. Beef kebabs with chimichurri sauce. And chocolate raspberry truffle cake.
Oof, that sounds good.
Right?
That sounds very
Yes to all of the above, one course at a time. Thank you very much.
So when I was putting the image on the Tipple's website, I found some that said Columbia Valley on them, and I was like, well, ours must not say that because it's not from
Oh, it's not on there.
right. So I just didn't use the one with Columbia Valley. So
Fair
I wasn't
enough.
Sure.
No,
Well, maybe that's an older.
they're always representative. Yeah, so
Okay.
that's fair enough. All right. So let's go ahead and stop sharing.
Okay.
I'll talk about the wine a little bit as we take a sniff and a sip. All right. This is a red blend, and that is what the word claret means. All right.
Okay.
But we're going to go more into specific. That's all I'm going to say right now. We'll get more specific in a moment. So it is a Bordeaux blend,
Okay.
and we'll go into what that means as we go into it. All right. So lots of terms that could mean. So what it is, 35% Cabernet Sauvignon. It's kind of evenly spaced out because 35% is the largest one. We're not dealing with 75% of wine, right? 35% Cabernet Sauvignon, 34% from Cab's half brother Merlot,
Okay.
right? 27% Cabernet's daddy Cab Franc.
Just have these words on his notes. Half brother, daddy Cab Franc.
That's right. Hey, that's what they are. 3% Petit Verdot and 1% Merlot's half sister Malbec.
Okay.
Which I will have a visual of later.
Okay.
And then, but it makes me happy. You know, a lot of relatives going on here. A medley.
A medley of relatives.
Alcohol content 14.5%. So right there we're, medium high level for a red, right? Age worthiness. Let's take a sip, smell, and let's get an opinion. So, not going into the individual flavors and scents right now. Overall impressions of alcohol. Do we have enough alcohol to age this wine? Yes, we do.
Are these rhetorical questions?
They can be, but they don't have to.
Okay.
I mean, I'm happy to spread it out.
Okay.
Is there enough tannin in this wine?
I feel the tannins.
Feel them, right?
Okay.
There's enough tannin. Acidity, right? So is it a very tart wine, or is it wine that just keeps the fruit fresher than dried? Right.
Tastes tart to me. Am I tasting wrong?
No. I would call this fresh.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Dark fruits, but fresh versions,
Okay.
not dried versions.
Okay.
So I would call it medium acidity.
Okay.
So we've got a little higher alcohol, nice tannins,
So
medium acidity.
5 to 10 years.
Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect. Right. So ready to drink right away, age up to 10 years, not meant to be a 20, 30-year guy.
Okay.
All right. Barrel aging on this guy. Definitely getting some of the nice really more spicy notes.
Mhm.
All right, so what does that tell us of the oak? If you're not getting a bunch of vanilla, but you're getting a barrel spiciness,
Okay.
what
so
kind of wood?
I would say, it's the word old oak, not new oak, not American oak. They do French oak.
Yes, all right, so it is French oak,
Mhm.
but there's quite a bit of it in there.
Okay.
So more
So it's
young,
new French.
new French oak.
Okay,
Boom.
all right.
Yeah, you're right on there.
Yeah,
I love it. So, I think you did a great job.
thank you.
All right, so now let's talk about kind of what I'm smelling and tasting
Okay.
and what you guys are smelling and
So
tasting.
I'm thinking it's probably Linda, but nutmeg. Is it
Nutmeg,
Linda or Paul that said that?
nice.
Okay, that's what I figured.
I like the
Yeah,
nutmeg.
I was gonna say there's something in it that reminds me a little bit of like the spices that go into coquito. So I don't know. I'm thinking, is it nutmeg or cinnamon or clove? But there's something in it that
Christmas
reminds me
spices.
of that kind of catches me, and a little bit of like pepper, but I don't know if it's like green pepper. I don't know. There's just,
Yeah, I get a little pepper.
but
I
I
love it.
like it. It's
I-
really
that's
it,
great.
it's tart though. I get what Elizabeth is saying. So I'm curious to see what this is going to taste like in 30 minutes.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
Yeah, we're relaxing. I love what you're saying. So when I'm caught on those numbers, like a nutmeg, and then like one that I like to use, Linda, for that description is allspice. You know, when you get that allspice in there for baking,
yeah.
you can, and it's totally, in fact, it's a next level thing to be like, you don't have to, because then it's next level if you pull out the specific spice, right? Look,
I
you
hold
could
back.
say, allspice, star anise, and nutmeg and be on point. You don't have to go that specific. You can always say it's a baking spice medley,
Okay,
right? Because these are that kind of thing that we're talking about.
okay.
And I think that's totally fair to be like, there's baking spices,
Mhm.
and then there's more herbs, and then there's pepperiness, which are kind of my three categories.
Sure.
And you're picking up some peppery
Mhm.
and baking spice.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay, I like that description because it is hard for me to pick out the individual spices.
Mhm.
But if I think about it in those three categories, baking spices, herbal spices, and then peppery, meaning some heat.
Right.
Or, yeah.
Yeah, so
spices, yeah.
that's what I do.
Okay, no, that
I hope
makes
it's helpful.
sense to me.
Yeah.
That's the first time you've said that, so.
Hey, once in a
Yeah.
while, accidentally.
that's a really great description because I was like, that's why I was telling Paul, I said it kind of, coquito has those baking spices. So there's something there. And then there's another type of like spice, but like it can't, so that's a really great descriptor. So those three categories, that's helpful.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad that was helpful, and I'm glad you guys like that. And like, here's Jerry jumping with licorice, which is what I call star anise,
Mhm. Well,
right?
that was Harriet.
Oh, Harriet.
tastes
Oh,
like
yeah.
it. Mhm.
Very, yeah, and I agree 100%. I think there's star anise, a licorice quality to this wine. And then, which I like some of the other descriptions here, which I think will pop out, a cola quality.
Mhm. Okay, what do you mean by cola quality?
So a little bit of what you may get from like a flat cherry cola.
Okay.
Mhm.
Cherry cola.
So there's a cola quality. In this case, I wouldn't go cedar, which is one of my favorite things with cab, right?
Mhm.
But sandalwood, it's a little different. All right, so but if you went cedar, sandalwood, there's a woody quality, almost a
Mhm.
tobacco box quality kind of thing, not tobacco box, cigar box quality.
Mhm.
And then another one that I think really kind of jumps out once you see it, and you're like, oh, that's where I'm going. Black tea. And I will keep the tea bags tomorrow, like if you want to like
Thank you.
even get a little more.
Thank you.
And that's kind of that tannin quality as well, because you get a lot
Mhm.
of tannins from black tea.
Mhm.
And you so
Okay, so Robin said I get cola. We just had last year's Bourbon County cola varietal.
Oh.
And it listed coriander as a note, which I can definitely see for this too.
I agree. That's a good call. Coriander.
Yeah, I get the like flat cola taste
Mm.
that you're talking about. Yeah.
Right.
The woodiness is harder for me to pick out.
Right. If you get kind of like a cedariness, it's a
Okay.
little bit, and I know you're not around the cigar boxes at the store like
Right,
I am,
right.
but yeah, you get that cigar box thing.
Okay.
Kind of a sandalwood is what they called it. I'm good with all of it.
There are probably a couple in Reese's bedroom I could go smell, but
Probably.
yeah.
Yeah. So, and they put a touch of vanilla. It's definitely not a dominant quality, and it really can be with New World wines. But the French oaking tends to be a little bit more about herb, spicing than, but it doesn't have no vanilla, right?
Right.
It has some vanilla. So.
And then, yeah, Linda and Paul agree with the coriander, or just Linda does.
Like having a minute, like it jumping out on the nose, right? Boy, it is pretty. It's, it's big, luxurious, powerful, with complexity. These are the reasons I chose this wine.
I feel, I'm gonna say this and it's gonna be really dumb. I feel like I'm getting like a floral note from the, are you not getting any floral note?
No, it could totally be.
Am I misidentifying?
All right, well, so what floral are you thinking?
Smells a tiny bit flowery.
Because to me, it's more of the high note of something that is like a sandalwood cedar thing, like it's more of a high woody note,
Getting,
because
misidentifying it.
It could be because cedar, and I'm sure it's been a little while, like we occasionally get cedar aged sake in the store and cedar aged beer in the store.
Okay.
And you get a little more, it gives you this peppery, singy high note.
Okay.
And that's more of where I would go with it.
I'm sure that you are right.
I'm not shutting anything down.
No. This is the only time, the only instances in our lives when I just defer to Jeff. He's right, I'm wrong.
No.
When
And I wouldn't
tasting
even do
something,
that. I wouldn't say that.
absolutely.
I would not say that. But all right, so beautiful notes, nice discussion about this wine. A lot to discuss about it. We'll see if it also coalesced into a lot of enjoyment at the end. So let's jump over to the wine label review.
Okay.
So wine label review on this guy. Kind of a fun one. You get in here and you say Matthews, like if you were just walking around in a store, not Tipple, so you're not getting any help. And you're left to your own devices. So you see Matthews, all right, obviously the winery. Claret, that doesn't necessarily mean anything to you, right? Because that's a very specific term.
Downton Abbey, and I know they talked about the Claret in Downton Abbey, so that's what made me.
Right, you got a vintage, you see a location, Columbia Valley. Once again, you need to know Columbia Valley's in Washington State. The truth of the matter, right? And we're talking about a Bordeaux varietal red blend, but that's the kind of thing that you get help with. Your regular people, but you look at that, you would have this hopefully in a section that was labeled red blend. I would assume a lot of people would assume the name was just Claret, because you shouldn't, most people don't know that term, and that's fine. Like it's a specific term. So, on there. So you look on the back, they do list the varietals and the percentages, which is fun. I think that's really nice to kind of give people, okay, here's a red blend. What am I going to drink? And here it is. Cab Merlot, Cab Franc, Petit Verdot, Malbec. And then you can see, well, if you didn't know where Columbia Valley was, you can see it's from Washington down here. And then they've got just a nice little note from the Matthews as a family-owned operation, not owned by the Matthews family. But we'll talk about that.
Okay.
All right. And you've got the ABV in there. Pretty minimalistic, but a really nice, you say, okay, here's a nice red blend. Give it a shot, right?
Yeah.
So. All right, so, but what does Claret mean? That's kind of the thing that comes out, Claret. So Claret is now a generic name created by the English to mean a Bordeaux red blend. Bordeaux red blend, which we'll get into further detail on the other slides, is a red blend of specific varietals of grape. And that would be largely, but not exclusively, Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Malbec, Petit Verdot, and Cab Franc.
Okay.
Right. So this will be a blend of those grapes, which we know it is. We looked at the back. So nowadays, Claret means a Bordeaux red blend.
Okay.
But why is there a second term? Right. So back when you go to back in time, and come with me back in time to Bordeaux. Bordeaux's first fame came from sweet white wines.
Okay.
Back when the world loved sweet wines. We're talking about Thomas Jefferson loved Sauterne. Sauterne is the name of the sweet white from Bordeaux.
Okay.
All right. So, but they also made a rosé later on in the 1700s. They made a rosé, which the English called claret, because you could see through it. It was a translucent red.
Okay.
Claret. Then later on, Bordeaux kind of changed the style they were exporting, and the English just kept the term.
Okay.
So claret, which means clear, has nothing to do with what we're seeing here, but it became a generic term for wines that are not sweet on the red side from Bordeaux.
From Bordeaux.
Yes.
So when the English back in the 1700s started calling it claret,
Right.
it was French.
It was a French rosé.
Okay, that's why they called it claret.
Right.
That's like when they call everything pudding instead of
Right.
dessert, because
Mhm.
that was dessert was a French word. And they-
Right.
So, okay, interesting. That's
So-
very interesting.
And so this is called a claret because it's made in the style of Bordeaux blend, but
Yeah.
now from the United States in
Mhm.
Washington.
This is very.
There's
convoluted.
no reason to be confused. Anyway,
It's wine.
it is wine. But anyway, claret is just another name for a red blend.
Okay,
And the red blend is going to be a Bordeaux red blend.
okay,
All right.
all right.
No Syrah in a claret.
No, sir.
Fair enough. And see, now you're the one singing.
It's because I've lived with you for too long.
Well, you know, that is going to catch on. Okay.
Next.
Yes. Next slide, please. All right. So Bordeaux, let's go into Bordeaux red blends, right? Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Petit Verdot, Franc, Cabernet Franc, and Malbec. They all originate from southwestern France, which is where Bordeaux is. All of them are black skinned with white flesh. Cabernet Franc is the parent grape for Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot. Now, the mother grape to make Merlot is the same grape, mother grape for Malbec. So that's how Merlot and Malbec are related.
Okay.
Yeah. So Cab Franc's the MacDaddy. Then it's a very obscure grape. I've got it in here somewhere, I think, or I might have put it on the next page. It's on the next page.
Okay.
So for the other one, it's pretty obscure. Anyway,
I love when you do this because it reminds me of the left and right twits bars.
Right.
And there is actually a difference evidently here.
there is a difference. Sorry. So we're in Bordeaux. We say, okay, Bordeaux red blend. Bordeaux red blend does use the same grapes,
Okay.
but they use different dominant grapes, right?
Okay.
So left bank Bordeaux, traditionally, not exclusively, but traditionally, this is wine after all, no hard and fast rules. Left bank Bordeaux, Cabernet Sauvignon dominant, and you can see the growing percentages they're represented in things. So dominantly Cabernet Sauvignon grown, and then Merlot. Right bank is Merlot dominant, and then
Okay.
Cabernet Sauvignon.
Bless
Excuse me.
you. So there's no Petit Verdot from right bank? Or traditionally there is. Traditionally, it's just those three.
The dominant is that it's there, you know,
Okay.
it's there,
Okay.
but they use more of it on the.
So when you're seeing a Bordeaux blend,
Hmm.
you would just look at it and look at the percentages. Oh, if it's cab dominant, then it's left bank. If it's Merlot dominant, it's right bank. Because I'm thinking they don't distinguish in that.
Oh, they
way.
do,
They do?
because
Okay.
what'll happen is they will give a subsection of it, which it'll tell you where it's from,
Oh,
right?
okay.
So Saint-Emilion versus, different areas.
You would have to
So
know.
you'd have to know a little bit more.
Okay.
And here's the other thing, because of climate change, things are changing,
Mhm.
and I've seen many more left bank Bordeaux that are Merlot dominant than ever before.
Okay, because
So-
Merlot grows better in warmer climates.
It's handling it better, handling
Okay.
the changes that are going on there. So,
Okay. All right.
so this is traditional. But it's not, there are no rules that require it to be.
Yeah.
So, next one, please.
All right.
All right, Bordeaux blends. So what flavors could we expect from it? Black currant, black cherry.
Mhm.
All right, so darker, right?
Yeah.
Graphite, chocolate,
Mhm.
and herbiness.
Mhm.
Now, in Bordeaux, you're going to get it that much more of that. Now, we talked about a lot more of a spicy note and that kind of thing.
Right.
That is the effect of we're dealing in New World,
Okay.
younger oak, and volcanic soils. They are not volcanic soils in
Okay.
Bordeaux.
Okay.
So this is kind of where it was based, and we can see with what we talked about some of how it differs.
Oh, absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah. So it's interesting that I know we love wine folly.
Love it.
But they don't distinguish between old world and new world, like, because there is a difference in what we taste very often.
Oh, yeah, and they'll have a section on like
They
old
do,
world
they
versus
have-
new world, what
okay.
you want.
More
But in this
specific.
case, because we're dealing with the Bordeaux blend,
Okay,
they have to figure out what they're going to say instead of, oh, well, here's a new world Bordeaux blend versus
Okay.
the traditional. And
right.
at some
Okay.
point, you've got to make a choice and define something,
Okay.
right?
So our ABV is kind of toward the high side for this one then.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm. Which once again is a little more indicative of new world growth.
Okay,
Mhm. Next one, please.
they're light on the ABV in the old world.
A little more, yeah, a little more traditionally, a little lower.
Huh.
Mhm.
That's a shame.
Well, it's cooler over there.
Okay.
All right, so Cab Franc, the Mac Daddy, you know, I always pull this out when Cab Franc is involved
Loves to
because I
say
love
Mac Daddy. I would love to know when that term was last actually used.
it. Right now,
91.
Mac Daddy Cab Franc. So, by the way, Cab Franc to Magdalene Noir de Charente. All right.
French ancestors are rolling over in their
Yeah,
graves
fair
right now,
enough.
what do you say?
So that is how we got, anyway. So so this one,
Mhm.
not with Cab Franc, with another even more obscure grape. Which I think I wrote it down. Maybe I didn't. Anyway, an even more obscure grape was the father grape. The mother grape is the Magdalene,
Okay, wait, we have a chat.
in order to get to Malbec.
Cab Franc equals the Nick Cave grapes. 100%.
So many kids, y'all. They
Yeah.
they made Sauvignon Blanc out of it, right? So it's all over the
It's
place.
obviously blended really well with everything.
Right.
Yeah.
We've got red grapes, we've got white grapes, all over the place.
Yeah.
You got Carmenere down there. So
And then this over here, this Monterrey
yeah, that one is,
Belza.
yeah, I've never seen it listed anywhere ever
Okay.
in any way. So
All right.
they know that it made something. I'm assuming it's a dead end vine that.
Okay, because I mean, obviously Merlot, Carmenere, and Cabernet Sauvignon.
Right.
I mean, we know those. Mhm.
Right, and Sauvignon Blanc.
Yeah, I
But,
was talking
Yeah,
about the.
yeah.
yeah,
But then,
the
like
list.
you say, that Gros Cabernet, I don't even know that grape.
Mhm.
So. And I've never seen the ability to have wine made with the Magdalene either.
Does it still exist?
It does exist.
Oh, okay.
So they say, but might have to go to France to find some wine made from it.
Okay, there we go.
All right, next one, please. All right, grape anatomy. So we talked about this already. So black skinned,
Mhm,
white fleshed.
mhm.
We're dealing with a lot of grapes that have a lot of flavor and intensity in the skin in the peripheral zone. They're all, not as intensely tart
Okay,
as some of the of the white and red grapes can be.
okay.
But not without it. I mean, we have some freshness in here, and especially Cabernet Franc would be the leader. The Cabernet Franc can be extremely tart.
Sure.
So that would be one of the reasons for it, is to give it uplift, to keep it fresher and from getting too dark and fruity.
Okay.
Is you put a little Cabernet Franc in there to add some tartness,
Lifts it.
and it lifts it, and also a little bit of elevation, which will also give it a little bit of almost a floral quality on the nose.
Oh, okay,
It lifts those aromas up.
okay,
So
all right.
it
Next.
also adds pepperiness. So,
Oh,
yeah.
all right, I definitely got pepperiness.
all right. So where in the world are we? We are in the northern growing latitude, and we're way up here in Washington. So
Washington's the top
the
one.
top one, yeah. Way up here in Washington. So we're in the top third, at least
Mhm.
top quarter of the growing latitude. By the way, you see, like, it runs right across southern Canada.
Yeah, well, it seems like more and more of Canada is going to be accruing latitude.
It looks like it is,
Mhm.
yes, as things move forward.
Mhm.
So, all right. So I thought this was a fun one. Wine regions in the US. So we are dealing in the Columbia Valley this week.
Okay,
But I kind of like looking at this. I think it's kind of fun to see.
it's
Yeah, Texas, got Missouri.
those Texas ones are going to go away
That's right.
real quick. But I mean, we had from the Finger Lakes.
Yep.
Mhm.
We've had from the Finger Lakes. And not from these guys. Actually, I drank some Mexican wine the other day.
How was it?
Some of it was good.
It wasn't just like sangria or something.
Some of it was nice.
Some of it was nice.
All right, so here's a little.
Some of it.
So we're dealing with it was better than I expected.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
As a whole,
Okay.
but also more expensive than I expected,
Oh. Mm.
which was a weird combination.
Yeah.
Coming from
So
Mexico.
I'm guessing we're not getting any Mexican wine into the store.
It is not my current intention.
Okay, cool.
Unless we do it just to explore the one that I thought was pretty darn good.
Mm.
That avocado wine, that's what it.
Yeah, that's right. That's alligator pear to you, sir. All right, so here we are. This wine is from the Columbia Valley, which is all the tan area. These areas within it are included in Columbia Valley, but
That is a huge area.
it is a very, very large area. All right, so very warm days, desert dryness in the summer, so you can have the vines slowly mature their grapes over a long period of time to gain character without worrying about diluting it with rainfall.
Okay.
Right?
Mhm.
Quickly cooling nights so they don't over ripen too soon.
Okay.
So once again, you want a slow ripen without dilution from rain, and it does provide that. Actually, literally what the next line. Anyway, soil composition. The soil was created 15,000 years ago with the Missoula floods. Glacial melting created a lake the size of Lake Michigan, which is why it's such a huge area.
Wow.
The ice dams broke and the water flooded all the way into the Pacific Ocean, and the Columbia River Gorge was born.
Huh. So that's what we have to look forward to in a few years.
And we'll see. I'm going to tell you, our local glacier really is not very big.
Okay.
I think
the one off the coast of Florida.
right. I think Florida's already seeing what it's going to see. Like,
Yeah.
oh, you guys are going to be like a jungle down there.
You see them anyway.
Anyway.
There are maps.
It brought volcanic soil into the area as the water flowed swiftly through.
Mhm.
Sandy soil, lots of volcanic minerality, lots of character, and yet still a dry area, right? They definitely have to irrigate, but they've got the river, so they're able to do so. And we'll look at how dry this area is when you see the far bank, like right next to a river. Desert, right? You're next to a river. So this wine that we're drinking tonight was sourced throughout different areas within the valley. So this is a cuvee, right? That's one of the terms I like to use. Cuvee usually means sourced from different locations and all brought together. It can be a single varietal cuvee. In this case, we have a multi-varietal cuvee.
Okay.
It can sometimes just mean multiple different varietals together. Cuvee is an ambiguous term. And then I looked it up and the French origin of the term is just the word vintage. I was like, well, thanks for that. That's not helpful. Anyway,
Okay.
so Horsehaven
can
Hills.
you explain the difference between a cuvee
Mhm.
and negociant?
All right. Yes, they're significantly different. All right. So
Okay.
cuvee is a blend of either different grapes, different locations,
Mhm.
or even different vintages.
Okay.
All right. A negociant is a winemaker that is purchasing grapes.
Okay.
Right. So it doesn't mean they only purchase grapes. So my belief when I look at this is that what we're drinking tonight, this is a negociant production blended with their own estate grapes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. So they're buying grapes from other places
Right.
and they're using their own
Right.
to make a cuvee.
To make this cuvee.
Okay,
Yeah.
so cuvee refers to the grapes and negociant refers to the person.
Negociant is the person, the
Okay.
winemaker, and
Alright.
how they source their grapes, right?
Okay.
So if you have an all estate vineyard,
Mm-hmm.
that means they own
Right.
and make all the wine
Yeah.
there. It's all connected, right?
Mhm.
Or not necessarily all connected, but they own every single parcel and control it 100%. Negociant means they have a contract. Not
Mhm.
always. They often means they have a long-term contract and they control how the grapes are grown.
But they don't
So,
own the
but they
land.
don't own the land itself. Sometimes they even work the land
Okay,
and they don't own the land. And that would still be negociant.
it would still be a negociant even if they worked the land?
Even if they work the land, but they don't own the land, it's still negociant.
That's interesting.
Right.
Okay.
Sometimes negociant means they grew it any way they want to, and I just bought some grapes.
But I tasted them and I was like, hey, these are cool. These are
Yeah.
good grapes.
Yeah.
I like these. These would work well.
Right. Honestly, it can also be somebody, I'm willing to make any juice. I don't care. I want cheap grapes and I'm going to make garbage water that I sell for
Just
$4
bring
a
me
bottle.
as many muscadine grapes as you have.
It can be the entire thing from absolutely controlled, the
Mhm.
way Laura Catena is
Okay.
negotiating with her Luca wine group that we had that, and absolutely she has complete control over those grapes. She doesn't own the land, but she controls those grapes and how they're produced. And that's very common in France and a lot of places throughout the world. But other places don't have as much, and they're just maybe a casual startup and they just want to make some wine and they buy some grapes and they're a negotiant too. So it kind of runs that spectrum.
Okay.
All right. So anyway, this guy, we are from Horsehaven Hills.
Horse Heaven Hills,
I always say Haven,
but
but it's
that's
Heaven, Horsehaven Hills, yeah.
okay.
Royal Slope is here.
Mhm.
The Waluke Slope and the White Bluffs,
Okay.
right? So right all along the
Did
river.
we have something from Walla Walla?
We did.
Okay.
We've had a wine from Walla Walla. We've had one from Horsehaven Hills. So,
And Yakima, right?
and Yakima. Yep.
Okay. Cool.
So, all right. So what are they growing there? I thought this would be fun to look at. So dominantly, let me get those guys out of the way. All right. Dominantly Cab, but when you see Merlot's right there. I mean, honestly, it's a little hard. Yeah. And then you see Chard and Riesling, a lot of Riesling in Washington, which I found surprising originally.
Why?
I didn't expect, I just think of it needing, I can't imagine the same place growing Cabernet, Merlot, and then Riesling. Because you don't have any Cabernet or Merlot in Germany. And you think, I always think of Germany
Oh,
for Riesling, right?
Absolutely.
So part of that is the Riesling loves a high mineral soil, right? So you're dealing with slate and all kinds of high minerality in Mosel, where, over in Germany,
Mhm.
along the riverbanks. Once again, this is riverbanks as well.
Sure.
So it allows it to, and ripen slowly in the more cool areas because it is very far north. So you have inland, you have some areas that are very warm in the more deserty areas. In different areas, you do get a cooler, slow growth. So, but it's just not something, I mean, you're not seeing Bordeaux Rieslings,
Mhm.
right? It's not something you would ever discuss. And yet you have, this area is so dynamic. You can grow Bordeaux varietals and Riesling and Chardonnay, which would be like Burgundy.
Wow.
It's really cool.
Mhm.
All right, Columbia Valley. Here we are. So I talked to you, I already went through most of the things in Columbia Valley. We can just take a look.
Okay.
There's the river and you can see, and by the way, do you see the desert?
Yeah.
Like, here's grapes. No one planted grapes here yet, so it's desert, but with a big ass river in the middle of it.
Oh, with a what?
Big river.
Okay.
And here it is again. I mean, you see, left to its own devices, it does not produce a lot of, but, we love to put grapes in areas where they're going to struggle. And there you go. That
Yes.
high minerality, low organic. Obviously,
Mhm.
there's no trees. You got plenty of water right there. No trees.
See, these are the kind of things I wish I could share this with my kids, because we talk about, like, you have to have grit and you have to struggle, and that's where you grow.
Mhm.
But their parents might get upset if I, educated them on wine. So.
Yeah, well, fair enough.
Mhm.
Fair enough. Matthews Winery. All right, so this looks awfully familiar, right? And right across the river from it, there it is, right? So they're right in the middle of all that. But you look at that, and who looks at that and thinks, you know what I want to do is plant all that there.
Yeah.
It's
Wine
amazing.
growers. Wine growers are like, look, nothing
know.
else here.
Yeah.
This is great.
I've been in the industry a while now. It still amazes me what wine grapes will grow in. Right. So, all right, similar growing latitude to France and Italy.
Okay, so hold on.
Mhm.
Says question from Chris and Robin, and then Linda and Paul have one as well. I don't see hands raised, but
Yeah.
okay. So. Let's see. Okay. Oh, it's because we have it minimized. So when it's like this and we're sharing the screen, just put it in the chat. That's perfect because
All right.
we have the people minimized. So.
Gotcha. Sorry.
No worries.
Is there a discernible difference between a cuvee and just a red blend?
There can be. All right. So you can have a Cabernet Sauvignon cuvee that is 100% varietal. And it would be, let's say you could make, Matthews could do it. And they say, all right, fine. This is a cuvee of Cabernet Sauvignon from multiple different locations. So it would be a Columbia Valley cuvee of Cabernet Sauvignon. And the word cuvee is just because it can be used in so many different ways. It can also be a cuvee of multiple different kinds of grapes. But my favorite usage, and I will say it seems to be kind of leaning that way, is a multiple location. So I think they're, in this case, looking at it as, hey, this is a Claret. We all know, and from their point of view, right? They're thinking, we all know Claret is a red blend, a Bordeaux red blend.
Okay.
This is a red blend, which is a cuvee of locations within the Columbia Valley. So in their mind, I believe it's kind of similar to what I was saying, which could be a cuvee of Cabernet Sauvignon from the same thing. Right?
Okay. Okay.
But it can be, you know, I've seen, I think one time a cuvee of vintages.
Huh.
Yeah, so it can be these other things. It just means a mixing of something, and then you got to kind of like dig in. But usually it means different locations.
Okay. It's just funny because the wine industry is always like, yes, usually, but in this case.
Yeah. And that's why I don't like it when people are snooty in the wine industry.
Right,
Because look, you guys have not done a whole bunch of hard and fast rules where you can say, how do you not know this? You know,
Right.
sorry, I shouldn't.
But
They do, but I shouldn't have
it's
used.
okay. You can use the French accent because that's your last name. So you
But it
can do
is,
that.
it is. Okay.
Yeah, it's fine. You can do that.
All right. Okay. So that's question number one. All right.
Yeah. And then our question was just a little bit of clarification on the negotiant. Is the negotiant just buying the grapes, taking it back to their place and making the juice themselves? Or are they saying, hey, we're going to buy your grapes, you do the juice, and then we're going to do our own blend with whatever that juice is?
All right. Good
Yes.
question. The answer is yes.
See, I knew
Yeah,
that answer.
yeah, once again, wine, right? Usually they bring the grapes back whole, but it can mean that it is already pressed, not fermented, and they bring it in a tanker. Right? But usually it's the grapes whole.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does the negotiant make that decision?
No, it usually would be the source, and the source might say, hey, we have the ability to press your grapes for you. Would you like that service? If so, how do you want them pressed? Because there's kind of different ways that you can press the grapes. So
But they're still asking, and the negotiant is making the final
the
decision.
negotiant's making the final
Okay.
decision. Yes.
All right.
Most of the time they decide, no, thank you. I'm going to press my own grapes
Mhm.
because that matters a lot. You don't want to over crush the grape and crack the seeds because you
Right.
get a lot of astringent, very unpleasing flavors
Mhm.
and mouth astringency.
Okay.
So same thing if you were to include stems or not, you got to pull those off. It's a whole thing.
Good questions.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Next one, please.
All right, let me minimize this again. So if you have questions, make sure to put them in the chat when we're on share.
All right. So Matthew's Winery was saved from financial difficulties is the official party line on that. In 2008 from the Otis family. And here they are. So it's still very much a family-run business. They are now expanding their wine brands
Mhm.
from the area.
Mhm.
So they do have estate growth, and then they have some negotiant purchases. And some of the negotiant purchases are also turning into some of the additional brands. But they're very involved, very excited about everything. They have some great winemakers, enologists that they have hired, and a great team. They believe in minimal intervention for the Matthews line and to let the Columbia Valley speak for itself. So We can hear more about it or read more about it. I think mostly it's music with sound, but there's a video on the next one.
All right, cool.
But this is a family-owned enterprise.
Yeah.
All right. So I kind of want to visit there.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Should I advance or stop?
Go ahead and stop, please. All right, so that is the story of Matthew's Claret. What do you guys think? A different on one of those giant droppers he was using? It's called a wine thief, actually.
Really? That's cool.
It is a wine thief, and the stopper is called a bung. So, and then that hole is called the bung hole. True story. I'm not making this up. That's so.
Okay. Wait, what's the turkey baster called?
It's a wine thief.
A wine thief. That's
Yep.
right. I like that term.
Yep.
That's very cool.
Yeah, we use that in brewing too, to pull out samples from our.
You call it the
brewers.
wine thief in
We
brewing?
call it a wine thief. We still, yeah, it's what it is. Brewers use it. We don't call it a beer
That's
thief. We leave credit where it lies.
Okay.
It is a wine thief used in brewing. So.
Interesting. Okay.
Yep.
Do we have one of those?
Mhm.
Oh, okay. No.
Of course we do.
It's like the one part of the house that I know nothing about is all of the beer stuff.
I start telling her, her eyes glaze over. Just bring me something tasty, please. Yeah, just
Hey,
fair
Jeff?
enough. Yes.
One, the volume got really loud all of a sudden. Did that happen to anybody else? Not us then. I have a question about the aging of wine. We talked a few weeks ago that the red wine ages better than white wine, but can you look at the different grape varietals and go, this grape varietal is going to age better than this grape varietal?
Not for most of them. Honestly, it just depends on the quality of growth and how they're grown. Because no, I really couldn't say that about most reds. I mean, there's a few reds like Bobal, right? Bobal but they're unusual reds, right? They're not the ones you guys are coming across. But Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, Merlot, Malbec, Syrah, all of these things, depending on how they're grown, could age or not age, depending if they're made to be casual drinkers. There's a few that would be a rarity, like Mission Grape, Bobal, but you guys are not coming out and buying those on a regular basis. They're just really fruity, fruity grapes. So usually you can't tell about ageability from the grape varietal.
So is the next one the ratings?
The next one is the
Okay,
rating.
so we want to talk about, does anybody have any more questions or observations about the taste or nose, anything?
Hmm.
Your pairings this evening?
Mm-hmm. Do we have some good ones?
I'll just ask the question since nobody's saying anything. So I can't remember, we've talked about the left bank and the right bank before. Is that going upstream facing north? Or is it going downstream towards the Bay of Biscay south? Which side is the left side?
Left side is the southern side, basically, because it goes inland. You know, which they always say like, oh, left bank, right bank, right?
But
So
it's really a north and south?
it's really almost a north and south. It's at an angle, but yeah.
Okay, great, thanks.
Thank you for asking a question, Jerry.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Welcome.
We paired it with we had like a skirt steak, a skirt steak with like a red pepper, tomato sauce, and some potatoes and stuff like that. It went really nice.
It went very nicely, yeah.
Yeah, I really like this a lot. I think the Merlot really comes out in this like really nicely.
I'm glad you like it. Yeah, it really is. It's a wine of character and quality that's easy to love, right? It's just one of those, yeah, it's going to pair great with food. But if you drink it without food, you're still good to go.
Yeah, no,
if you
it's
drink
so
it
good.
young, like we are now, you're good to go. If you age it, you're good to go. It's just this, it's utility knife wine, right? Yeah.
That's a Jeffism.
There we go. Made that up.
Utility knife wine.
Oh, would you like a little more?
Yes, please. Okay, so we are ready for the rating.
All right. So this guy had 93 points.
Okay.
But I always like to, caution everyone that
It wants to start. Hold on.
let's
Fudge.
get it started. Oh,
Okay.
let's take our sources. All right.
Okay.
Wine Folly, always amazing resource. 750.com, Wikipedia, wine.com, wicklowwine.com. Awesome map. Vineyards.com, WashingtonWine.org, and Matthews Winery. Thank you guys so much for sharing your content.
I can see that there are chats coming through. I think people are throwing their ratings up there.
I think so, because they're used. Oh, look,
This page, by the way.
there it is.
Here we go. It came before the sources.
It's a new mouse.
Okay.
Yes, right.
It's video. I went too far, and then anyway.
So, wine score explanation. You guys know I was talking about this because people pay for ratings. It doesn't mean that they are skewed high. And I think you were the one that really made it clear. You made the best argument for what it really skews. Most scores you see are going to be in the 90-point range because people are not going to pay to have their wine rated when they know it's not going to measure up.
Right.
Winemakers know what's going.
So the scores are artificially skewed high.
They aren't artificially skewed.
No, they are. They're artificially skewed high because if you submitted every single one out there,
Yeah, right.
then you would probably see more of a bell curve.
But I feel like because it's almost like a self-governance thing,
Mhm.
that the wines that get 90+ points would still probably get 90+ points. Right.
They could still get the 90. I agree that they would still get the ratings that they're getting,
Right.
but if you just looked at a graph of what the ratings are,
Right. Oh, okay.
it is artificially skewed high
Right. Right.
because they're not rating every single wine.
Fair enough. Yeah, you're totally right. Okay. So yes, but I don't believe,
Figure out math.
but I don't believe, and I know you weren't saying this.
Okay.
I feel like now that we've explored it in depth,
Uh-huh.
over the years, that I feel more strongly than ever that I feel good about the fact that you see so many 90 points up there
Oh,
because people are
absolutely.
self-governing. Oh, I'm not even going to pay to have them
Right.
review my
Right.
wine that I know is a 77,
Right.
which is
Right.
why they sell it for what they sell it for, that kind of a thing.
Sure.
So, which is fair enough. So with that in mind, do we have an outstanding wine here or a very good one or a classic wine? My goodness.
It's always interesting because you always start with outstanding, then you go to very good, and then you jump up to classic. And see, I wouldn't do that. I'd go classic, outstanding, very good.
Right. Well, I
It's
start with
just
the bulge of where most things land, right?
Right.
That I would choose for
Okay.
this, because I mean, honestly, if something was rated a mediocre, I would be shocked, right? Because I've had these.
Well,
wines,
you wouldn't, you also
Yeah.
would not pick that.
I wouldn't
for
pick
us
that
to-
wine.
Right.
And it doesn't mean that I couldn't pick a wine that people are like, that is just not for me. But like I always say, if you don't like a style of wine, you need to divorce your assessment a little bit in the form of, was it actually well made and does it taste like it should? And maybe it's just not for me.
Right.
Right.
Sure. Okay.
All
So I'm
right.
gonna stop the share a moment.
Let's take a look at what we have.
So let's see, we have Chris and Robin. Well, Chris is at 92, Robin's at 92.
Right.
So, okay.
Alright.
And then we have 92 for the Hogsets. Linda and Paul, we have Paul at a 90, Linda at a 91. And then we have Laura and Linda at a 92. And then we have Brendan and John at a 91. Why do you do that, Jeff? I wonder what.
Oh, the thing that you mentioned where I start and then I go low and then high. And you know what? It's just how I
It enrages me every week. And it's taken me almost 3 years to mention it. Every week we catch it on time. I'm like,
Why do you go there? You know what? It works in my mind. It works in my mind. Bienvenido a mi mundo.
yeah, well, it works in his mind. See what I deal with all the time.
That's right.
Yeah, there we go.
All right. So your thoughts. And I think part of this too, factoring in, which I did mention, is price point on here, right? How good is this for the price point?
I don't
So-
know what the price point is.
Right.
It's free to me.
I know,
It's
because
not
we
actually
try
free,
not to make it about the price
but
point on the
He doesn't
recording.
know what it
Right,
is, so,
Right. So,
okay. Okay, you usually just say that on the
Yeah.
thing. Okay, so based on also the price point, then I would actually rate it higher, but just on the taste and everything, I would have done a 91.
okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yes. Very, very.
But
nice.
for what that is, I would
Yeah.
kind of, and I shouldn't bump it up based on the price point,
No.
but it's very, very good for the
Mhm.
price point. though.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah. And I think part of that is that's good wine from Washington. Washington makes great wine.
mhm.
So,
All right, so next week, we're gonna do a poll in Zoom and see how we would all like Jeff to present the ratings.
oh my God. Look,
Can we go from top to bottom, from bottom to top, or just any random way he feels like doing it?
understandably, though, I'm not going to listen.
Yeah, well,
Like,
he's just gonna do it the way it's. gonna do
I'm
it.
probably, and let's say I'm going to do it the way I want it. So anyway.
Ready for the next week?
Yes, so next week.
Okay, hold on.
It's a good one.
Okay,
Yep,
ready?
next week,
Nope.
we already did that.
Yep.
So Napa Valley, California, Cabernet Sauvignon. All right. We ring in the holidays, is that time of year.
It is that
With
time.
a great Napa Valley cab, what else would we bring it in with? It is America's favorite, America's sweetheart, Napa Valley Cabernet. It is not just any, it is Sequoia Grove. Triumphant return to the store, long reasons why, but it has been overlooked too long. It is time for us to enjoy this wine.
Okay,
So fantastic producer, great for your celebrations. James Suckling, 92 points. It is no stranger to the north of 90. Food pairings, Parmesan and mushroom gnocchi, cheddar, bacon, twice baked potato, beef Wellington, and steak crostini with pate and truffles, which looked amazing.
that all sounds great. Yep.
I want that to be a thing. I'm sending it to my mother-in-law. So
And then she's still gonna make whatever she feels like.
she
making.
will make whatever she wants to make.
So there you go.
Right. But we're going Sequoia Grove, everybody.
All
So
right,
I hope you will join us next week.
all right.
And thank you for joining us this week.
Before we stop the recording, does anyone have any questions, comments, observations, anything? Okay, all right, everyone's good.
All right.
Cheers, everyone.